started. I don't know how much time I have. And it is chapter 2 ended with, though the elements of this narrative match what Nunez heard, it would turn out to be much more involved than that. Then chapter 3 is Princess Poe's White Claw Stain 26. And hello, everybody. I'm sorry. I just want to get this read to you guys. And I have my kids are in there. You know, they're 9 and 7. They're all right. But I don't need to leave them in there to fight, you know. So, Princess Poe's White Claw Stain 26. Whoever said a picture is worth 1,000 words did not work in law enforcement. Despite a staggering cache of photos and hours of body camera video in prosecutor Bill Thompson's file, there are a few written documents offering summation. There we go. Some might argue that this is a good thing because the Supreme Court's 1964 Brady versus Maryland ruling mandates discovery of all evidence given to the defense but does not require assistance in sorting it out. Prosecutors are allowed to dump huge cache of information at the last possible moment with no formal organization or reference, forcing defendants, I'm so sorry, you guys, and their attorneys to play catch up all the way to trial. This is a distinct advantage for the state, of course, but because they control the timeline and the narrative. Prosecuting attorneys typically have huge resources at their disposal, everything from local, state, and federal agencies with high-tech labs to subject matter experts and grand jury secrecy laws that shield their work from prying eyes until the moment they make arrests. The accused in the Koberger case was an indigent student with a public defender who left her Latah County position to avoid what appeared to be conflict of interest restrictions due to a client list that may have involved 2 of the victims' mothers. Oh my God. I won't do that again. Oh my goodness. Yes, Koberger had taxpayer-funded access to expert witnesses, but in my eyes, Ann Taylor and her assistants did not seem to be a dream team. Much of her experience involved low-level drug charges, DUIs, and the occasional assault because Latah County, Idaho, has one of the lowest crime rates in a state with one of the lowest crime rates in the nation. She had never defended a death penalty case. As if that were not enough of a thumb on the scale of justice, media interest did not make Taylor's job easier. Judge Hippler's gag order handed the prosecution strategic advantage because it limited what the world knew about their case. Constant pressure from a sea of reporters led to a steady stream of leaks, which only sowed confusion within the defense. Ann Taylor received 51 terabytes of Brady disclosure material, which may seem like fair play until you realize that the bulk of it arrived just months before trial, and she had to go through it by herself. Bill Thompson's team enjoyed broad discretion in how they submitted their files, and I discovered a great deal of exculpatory evidence in mislabeled folders, for instance. The reason I mention this here is that almost all evidence presented at the Brian Koberger's change of plea hearing was limited to what the world already knew. Bill Thompson focused on cell tower pings, knife sheath, DNA, and remote sightings of what is alleged to have been Koberger's white Hyundai Elantra, but he offered nothing in terms of revelation. What remains unresolved to this day is why so little mention was made of evidence found inside 1122 King Road, or why almost none of it was cited in affidavits or filings made available to the defense. Though police have now released hundreds of documents and photographs, they have withheld tens of thousands more, limiting outside scrutiny of what the prosecution may have known, what the defense may have missed. As it turns out, the defense may have missed a lot. As I looked through the massive amount of information, it appeared to me that the majority of the prosecution's work was on hard drives that still had not adequately been probed. Even the most experienced criminologist would find it daunting to know that Ann Taylor's workload included files containing hundreds of thousands of cell phone calls, social media feeds, chains, selfies, email and Snapchat entries, motor vehicle registrations, and other intimate details subpoenaed from dozens of persons of interest who may or may not have had anything to do with the case. I couldn't imagine the social media and all that. That's got to be a lot. Thompson's files included a digital wilderness of historic DNA analysis protocols, Amazon purchases, Google searches, financial record inventories, and data dumps from what seems like a bottomless pit of anonymous sources. Police went so far as to analyze the computer's modules of the victims' cars, grocery receipts from Koberger's trash, and hundreds of tips involving a rogue gallery of potential suspects, none of whom were ever charged. If Ann Taylor had the time and the staff, perhaps she could have built a proper defense from what she was handed, but even reading one page a minute, it would have taken years just to pursue it. The magnitude of this investigation and Thompson's claims would have been open to scrutiny at trial, of course, but there never was a trial. Not only was the public denied access to exculpatory evidence, as is standard when there is a plea deal, but they were never seen. Not only was the public denied access to exculpatory evidence, as is standard when there is a plea deal, but they were never even told it existed. Fortunately, all that has changed. Based on leaks from conscientious sources, we now know that on September 27, 2023, Bill Thompson's office reached out to a Memphis-based criminologist named T. Paulette Sutton for help with forensic analysis. What Sutton found saves us months of investigation because she lays out the strengths and flaws of the prosecution's case in a single, well-organized, I have no idea, I'm so sorry. Folder. As Sutton wrote in the introduction to her 64-page report, which was part of the Brady file in this case, was on November 6, 2023, I received a Seagate 1 TB portable storage device from Latah County Prosecuting Attorney's Office via FedEx Ground. The storage device was password protected, and the password associated with this hard drive was sent via a separate email from Ms. Jennings on October 31st, 2023. She sent the password before she sent the storage device. I guess she didn't know when it would arrive. I don't know. We know from her report that the Seagate drive included imagery taken in and around 1122 King Road within hours of the murders, as well as autopsy photos, surveillance video, drone camera recordings, selfies, social media pics, and screenshots downloaded from a wide selection of phones and devices. We know that the information provided to Sutton forms a detailed composite of what police found in the aftermath of the crimes. It forms the blueprint of their investigation. It is the spine of their case. Sutton also indicated in her report that she personally examined the crime scene. On December 21st, 2023, I traveled to Idaho and examined the residence at 1122 King Road, Moscow, Idaho. At the time of my examination, all physical contents and all areas of blood staining had been removed. Dismissing for the moment that the prosecution's primary criminologist likely never got access to actual physical evidence, we will focus on 9 individual caches of photographs taken exclusively by the Moscow Police Department and Idaho State Police. Files listed in Sutton's report contain approximately 3,280 crime scene photos, as well as the body camera footage from Officer Nunez, She lists 1,471 autopsy photographs of Chapin, Goncalves, Mogan, and Kernodle, as well as 1,697 photographs specifically related to Brian Koberger. Wow. Though Sutton's report summarizes what police found at the crime scene between November 13th, 2022 and January 27th, 2023, it represents relatively small sampling of the entire file. The most important thing is that the report offers us a glimpse into the information Thompson had access to in the months leading up to Koberger's change of plea and what Ann Taylor apparently did not. Before we get into the particulars, we should revisit the concept of confirmation bias. At the time Sutton was hired to evaluate critical forensic evidence, Koberger had already been charged and arrested. By the time she filed her report on August 29, 2024, a date had been set for trial. If the intention among prosecutors was to seek objective truth, Sutton's appearance seems a bit late in the game. One might surmise this report as more about validating Bill Thompson's narrative than looking for unresolved leads. Whatever his intention, we now have his files, meaning we can assess them with zero bias in terms of guilt. Authors are not bound by gag orders or any of Judge Hippler's onerous rulings. Amateur sleuths do not have to comply with rules of criminal procedure, the Idaho Bar, or esoteric case studies of constitutional law. I feel dumb sometimes reading this book. I'm sorry. All that matters here is the evidence, and Sutton's sequential analysis lays it out clearly. The building at 1122 King Road, Moscow, Idaho, is a multi-level house with 6 bedrooms, she wrote, because you have to start somewhere, and the house would be a likely choice. 2 bedrooms are located on the first floor as one enters from the parking lot area, depicted in ISP 4519. The front entrance door, depicted between the silver vehicle and the blue vehicle in this image, is located on the north side of the building. Sutton is referring to a widely distributed still photograph taken Sunday night by the Idaho State Police. The silver car is the Range Rover recently purchased by Kaylee Goncalves. The blue vehicle is a Honda Civic registered to Xana Kernodle's father. There are 2 ways to access the second level of the residence, either by entering the door on the north side of the building, depicted in ISP 4519, and then traveling up the stairs from the first floor up to the second floor, or by entering directly via a sliding glass door located at the back south side of the residence. Oh. Though this information is widely known, Sutton's report will expose seeming oversights that change the entire nature of this case. To me, they are extraordinary. We need to lay groundwork for what she and the prosecution believed in order to discover the extent of what they arguably got wrong. This sliding glass door on the south side of the building is depicted in ISP 4554 and enters directly into the kitchen on the second level. This level also includes a living area with a sofa and a beer pong table, a bathroom, the bedroom of Xana Kernodle on the west end of the building, and the bedroom of an additional resident on the east end of the building. Few would argue that the killer or killers entered or exited the house by any other means. As Nunez's body camera demonstrates, the sliding glass door was open when police arrived, and there were no signs of forced entry. Whether or not the front door was open, also, as one witness remembered, it has never been resolved. Also, there was 8 hours, so they could have been going in and out. Who knows? We don't know if the door was open or not. Period. The uppermost level of the residence is accessible via an internal stairway from the second level and contains 2 bedrooms. One bedroom on the third level was reportedly assigned to Kaylee Goncalves, and the other bedroom was assigned to Madison Mogan. The bodies of Kaylee and Madison were reportedly discovered in the bedroom assigned to Maddie, as depicted in ISP 4856. Miss Mogan was located on the south side of the bed, closest to the closet opening, and Miss Goncalves was located on the north side of the bed, closest to the wall. Both are covered with a beige comforter. A white fleece item, which appears to be a blanket, is lying at the foot of the bed. Here removed from Sutton's summary to what photos show, though blurred and redacted images released by police, Kaylee Goncalves and Maddie Mogen were found lying on their backs in a full-size bed, partially covered with a beige comforter. Kaylee was lying atop Maddie's right arm, shoulder, and torso. Okay. With her left hand folded adjacent to her chin. Numerous observers have stated that Maddie was placed in a princess pose and that the two bodies appeared to have been staged as if they were cuddling. Okay. Offering her expert opinion, Sutton wrote, "The posture and proximity of the bodies of Kaylee and Maddie can be best visualized when the comforter is removed. No blood is noted on the bottoms or tops of their feet, indicating they were not upright or moving about the area after their bloodletting injuries were inflicted." She used a series of gruesome images to make her point. Kaylee was found in tartan pajama bottoms with her legs spread, wearing an athletic sock on her left foot and a second sock beneath her right calf. Mogen was rolled slightly to her side with her left leg hanging off the edge of the bed and her foot on the floor. The blood visible on the bottom sheet is limited to the upper portion of the bed sheet at approximately chest level, according to the respective autopsy reports. No bloodletting injuries were reported below the waist or on the backs of either Miss Goncalves or Miss Mogen. It should be noted that there were no drip trails of blood noted on the bedroom floor. Though many of Sutton's observations seemed straightforward, there is no escaping the fact that she furnished her report nearly 2 years after the crime. 2 years she made this report, just months before the original date set for trial. She was hired by the prosecution with funds provided by the state of Idaho, which had charged capital murder with death penalty intentions. At this point in the judicial process, no one on Bill Thompson's team was looking for surprises, but here we find several. Drip stains, spatter stains, transfer stains, and saturation stains are visible on the comforter and on the exposed bed sheets. Apparent strands of hair are also visible on the computer. Those are her words, her report. Sutton. Though not otherwise discussed in Sutton's report, ISP crime scene analysis photographed 2 separate deposits of unidentified human hair in Maddie Mogen's bed. The first sample includes 5 separate clumps, dark brown or black in color, slightly curly, approximately 2 inches in length. They lie scattered over an area that appears to be 8 inches in diameter between Kaylee's right leg and the wall. The second hair sample is visible atop the beige comforter on Maddie's side of the bed, roughly between her knees. This lock of hair is several inches in length, shorter than any of the women's hair in the house, and markedly darker. Unlike the other samples, this strand appears to include bloody roots. Oh my gosh. One does not need a PhD in laboratory sciences to speculate that this was torn from someone's head. Sutton's report moves past the hair without speculation or explanation. Cool. A large pool of blood has accumulated at approximately the thigh region of Kaylee Goncalves, even though, referring to the autopsy report, no injuries are reported in this area to account for this pool of blood. For this large pool of blood to accumulate, a source of blood had to be above this area while bleeding occurred. Those are her words, Sutton's words. Hey guys, thank you so much for being here. We're reading chapter 3 of The Broken Plea. My kids are starting to get loud if you can't hear them. I hope not. I mean, they're not bad kids at all. They're great kids, but I don't want to leave them unattended too long. So we're going to just read. I do want to say I appreciate you being here. Okay, let's go. Officer Nunez's body camera, as well as photographs taken within the first 2 hours of investigation, show this pool of blood to be liquid. For blood not to dry after approximately 10 hours in a porous barrier like a bed comforter, it would have to be significant in volume. Although that volume has never been measured, it seems obvious that Kaylee Goncalves suffered one or more significant bloodletting injuries directly above the deposit. This only The only possible explanation was that she was sitting up at one point during the attack before moving or being moved to the position where police found her against Mogan. Sutton agrees. This is Sutton's word. The distribution of the bloodstains on the face and upper body of Kaylee Goncalves, the bloodstain on the south wall beside the bed, and the pool of blood at Miss Goncalves' thigh region on the comforter indicate that her posture and position did change during the event. From there, Sutton's report provides very basic assessments of blood splatter, which photos indicate on numerous vertical and horizontal surfaces. The directionality of the spatters closer to the hallway is from right to left and downward. The area of convergence of the spatter pattern indicates that they originated from a spatter producing event that occurred above the level of the bed. Two patterns of cast off blood indicated. Cast off is created by the movement of a bloodied object or objects, meaning a knife, is what he says. Based on police disclosures, however, we know that Kaylee Goncalves was asphyxiated and beaten as well, suffering blunt force injuries to her face and skull. At this point, all we have is Sutton's report for reference, but critical evaluation of photos, autopsy reports, search warrant inventories, and laboratory analysis will soon uncover a very different set of facts. Before we move on to other parts of Sutton's report, we must understand what she suggests about the unusually violent mechanism of the crimes. According to this report, Mogan and Goncalves were not just murdered, they were butchered in a violent rage by an assailant fixated on what police call as overkill, referred to as overkill. The directionality, proliferation, and spread of blood spatter created during the attack exceeds what seasoned homicide detectives would expect to encounter even in violent crimes of this nature. Image ISP 5122 depicts spatter stains associated with impact on the door casing and on exterior surface of the bedroom door belonging to Madison Mogan. This is consistent with these spatter stains having originated due to an impact delivered to a source of blood on the bed. Sutton documented blood spatter dripping down walls, staining furniture, stuck to the underside of shelves. She noted blood patterns on the comforter, the sheets, the mattress, two pillows, on the door jamb, and on the door itself. What she did not say is that the distance from Mogan's head to the exterior of the door was approximately 10 feet. A trajectory like this would suggest force beyond what one would normally expect in a stabbing. Oh my gosh. The larger stains which accumulate with flow stains are indicative of cast-off stains created by a bloody object in motion. She wrote, adding that spatters associated with impact were found on the underside of the shelf above the headboard of the bed. There was no headboard on Mogan's bed. Making shit up? Like what? Okay. Oversights matter in an analysis of this kind, and we will revisit many, but before moving on, we should pause to consider the differences between what Sutton found on the third floor and what Dylan Mortensen, our only witness, remembered hearing. And physical evidence is important, but so is context. According to the crime scene analysis, Mortensen's bed on the second floor was directly below Mogan's on the third. A physical separation of approximately 9 feet. According to her initial interview, Dylan said she heard Kaylee and her supposed assailant talking in a bathroom, a distance of almost 10 yards. A yard is 3 feet, if you didn't know. Although she remembered hearing Kaylee on the stairs, Dylan makes no mention of noise one would expect from a violent murders of two housemates directly above where the report says she was lying. Whatever happened on the third floor of 1122 King Road in the early morning hours of November 13th, one might assume that it made plenty of noise. Agreed. I need a drink of water. Hi, Jim. I will be right back, you guys. I'm so sorry. I need a drink. My mouth is so dry. Oh, gosh. I'll be right back. Thank you. I'm so sorry. No, I kind of bent my page. Okay, thank you guys so much for sticking around, but we were at a standstill anyway, at a pause. Hey, Joni. Hello, guys. If you're new in here, reading The Broken Plea. I'm on chapter 3. I love that that rhymes. It makes me happy. All right. On November, this is Sutton's words. On November 13th, 2022 at 1:49 p.m., Officer Lawrence Mowry summoned Dylan Mortensen to the Moscow Police Department with the intention of interviewing her regarding the murders of Xana, Ethan, Maddie, and Kaylee. I'm just going to say their names. He writes out their full names. I'm just going to say their names. Oh gosh, no, I kind of got a burp. Thank you guys for being here. Though Mortensen had provided information to Officer Nunez earlier in the day, this interview was her first formal representation of facts. Labeled Supplemental 42 in the MPD file, it is here transcribed verbatim, but it is Supplemental 42 if you guys want to go look at it. Dylan said she was a resident of the house where the incident occurred. Dylan said she was at a Sigma Chi party at around 10:30 on 11/12/2022, where she was drinking. Dylan said she went to Allie's house. Dylan said she believed she arrived home between 12:30 and 1 a.m. on 11/13/2022. Dylan said she thought Bethany arrived home at around 20 minutes after she arrived. Dylan said she believed Maddie and Kaylee arrived home at around 1:30 or 2 on 11/13/2022, and Dylan said up to this, nothing weird had happened during the night. Dylan said she and her friend, Lake, came home, followed by Bethany from Sigma Chi. Dylan said Lake lived in the Pi Beta Phi house and Bethany was her roommate at the residence. Dylan said when Maddie Mogan and Kaylee Goncalves came home from the corner club at the same time and everyone went to bed. Dylan was asked about the layout of her house, and Dylan said Kaylee's room was directly above her own. And Dylan said she lived on the second floor and Kaylee lived on the third floor. Dylan said Kaylee and Maddie both lived upstairs on the third floor in separate rooms. Dylan and Xana lived closest to the bathroom on the second floor, and Bethany lived on the first floor. When asked about Murphy, Dylan said it was a dog owned in the common between Kaylee and her ex-boyfriend, Jack. Dylan said there were no apparent issues between Kaylee and Jack. Dylan said Maddie had a boyfriend named Jake Schreiger, who was in Boise at the time of the incident. Dylan indicated Xana was dating Ethan Chapin, who was in the room with her at the time of the incident. Dylan did not know of anyone who would want to hurt Ethan when she was asked. Dylan was asked if she saw any cars in the area that should not be there. Dylan said, "No, I was not really looking at that." Dylan said she woke up at around 4 a.m. on 11/13/2022, lies, but this is the verbatim report, but we all know that she's lying, right? Dylan said that she knew it was Kaylee, on 11/13/2022, where she heard Kaylee and Murphy the dog dancing. Kaylee said she knew it was Kaylee because she recognized her voice and could hear Murphy barking. Dylan said she heard Kaylee go upstairs and say, "There is someone here." Dylan said that she thought she heard Kaylee run back down the stairs. Dylan said Kaylee sounded scared, when she made this statement. Dylan said at this time she jumped up and locked the door because she did not know what else to do. Dylan said she called out Kaylee's name and did not indicate if she got a response. You shut the door and then yelled her name. Why didn't you yell her name and kind of crack the door? Oh my God. Dylan said she then tried to call Kaylee, Xana, and Maddie on their phones. Why not Bethany too at this point, Dylan was asked if she saw anyone come downstairs or heard anything, and Dylan said, "No, I don't even know." Well, maybe she did call Bethany. I don't know for sure. I don't remember. Xana and Maddie on their phones. Dylan was asked if she saw anyone come downstairs or heard anything, and Dylan said, "No, I don't even know how they got in." How they got in? We're usually pretty good about locking doors and never had problems before. It was just really random. When asked again about the series of events, Dylan said she opened the door when she cried out to Kaylee. Oh, okay. Then closed the door because she was scared. Dylan said she then opened the door again and heard who she thought was Kaylee, but could have been Xana, crying in the bathroom. Dylan said she then heard a man's voice say, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Dylan said it was weird because the statement was not in a nice way and the voice was one she had never heard before. Dylan said she called out to Kaylee again and there was no crying after, and she did not know what happened after that. Dylan said she opened the door again and the guy is right there. Dylan described the male as approximately her height, 5'10", or a few inches taller, not skinny but athletic build. Dylan said the suspect was wearing all black with a mask that covered just his forehead and goes around his face. Dylan showed with her hands the mask exposed his nose but covered the mouth area. Dylan said she believed the suspect was white but did not remember eyebrow color or what his eyes looked like. Dylan said when she saw the suspect, he saw her and just left. Dylan said she believed he was holding something near his stomach or belt line. Dylan used both hands to point straight out from her abdomen. I'm assuming. I don't know. Dylan then moved her hands apart and back together to simulate a bulge. Okay. Dylan said this area was black in color and she thought now maybe it was a gun. Okay. Dylan said the unknown object had an arrow shape. Dylan seemed really unsure and said that she was tired during the event. Dylan was asked how long she believed it was from the time Kaylee said, "Someone is here," to when she saw the suspect. Dylan said she thought it was about 10 or 20 minutes. Dylan went on to say she was in and out of it and she did not fully remember the incident. Dylan was asked where the suspect was at their residence when Dylan saw him. Dylan said the suspect was between her bedroom door and the kitchen. Dylan said she remembered watching the suspect go out the kitchen door and leave. Dylan said at this time she closed her door and locked it as fast as she could. Dylan said the suspect did not walk toward her or say anything. Dylan said once the suspect left, she immediately called Bethany. And Dylan, why not Kaylee, Maddie, or Xana? Because they're gone or what? Dylan said once the suspect, she immediately called Bethany. Dylan said Bethany informed her that she heard a sound that sounded like a firework. Dylan then said that she told Bethany she called everyone and they were not answering. Dylan said she was in and out of it and believed everyone was just asleep. Dylan said she then went to Bethany's room, locked the door, and went to bed. Dylan said she woke up at around 11 or 12 and called her roommates, and no one answered. Dylan said she called Hunter. Hunter came to the residence, went upstairs, and told Dylan they needed to call law enforcement immediately. Dylan was asked if there was anything else she wanted to share. Dylan said Bethany described that noise as a loud boom, but Dylan did not hear it. Dylan was asked if any of her roommates shared any weird experiences in the last couple of weeks or calls or texts. Dylan said, no, it's been all normal, nothing weird at all, nothing really happens in Moscow usually. Oh, I forgot I do a funny voice for her. When asked if there were any altercations at the Sigma Chi party, Dylan said, no, everything was normal. Dylan mentioned again that she was with Ethan and Xana at the party. Dylan was asked if anyone was having sexual relations with anyone they shouldn't be. Dylan said no. Dylan brought up an incident which occurred about a month prior. Dylan said that she and Bethany remember Kaylee saw a shadow while she was taking Murphy outside. Dylan said Kaylee also mentioned when she was at Winco 2 or 3 weeks prior, an individual was following her. Dylan also said she arrived home one time and the door to the residence at 1122 King Road was found open. Dylan said she did not believe the slider door was locked the night of 11/12/2022. Dylan said that she heard Murphy barking a lot around 4 a.m. that night, 11:13, when Kaylee went upstairs. Dylan said she heard Murphy go outside barking as well. Dylan was unsure if Murphy would chase a suspect outside. Dylan said she did not remember if the suspect who ran left the slider door open. Okay, that was the report. Consider for a moment that everything necessary to prove the guilt or innocence of an offender could be sealed up in a container and protected against contamination forever. We all know that is not possible because even under the best conditions, crime scenes are dynamic environments that begin to change the moment investigators enter. To document, seize, and process evidence, things need to be moved, and each time something is moved, the crime scene changes. Even with the best of intentions, there is a point where it becomes impossible to go back to the parts in hopes of reconstructing the whole crime. This trade-off between documentation and analysis has been the bane of homicide investigations since Cain killed Abel. Wow. If you're following, it's Broken Plea, Chapter 3. I'm on page 90. Fortunately for us, police now have swabs and digital cameras to bolster recollection. In addition to information provided in Sutton's report, we have objective views provided by other officers, including Nunez, who had a body cam, and ISP technicians with state-of-art devices. We also have numerous contemporaneous reports, including those of Detective Jeffrey Talbot and the man in charge of the crime scene search. We can glean a great deal by looking at all the different perspectives and using them to ferret out the truth. Let's start with Talbot, who wrote in his December 6th report, as you go up the stairs to the second floor, you enter a small living room area. There was a folding table set up on the west side of the area, partially blocking the entry to the west hallway. By comparing his findings with Sutton's analysis, we can really begin to figure out where things seem to have gone wrong. Talbot wrote, the table had multiple red solo cups on it in game formation, beer pong, along with the small steak knife. There were multiple areas of red liquid on the table that appeared to be blood. Though he no doubt had plenty of experience interpreting evidence at crime scenes, this seems not to be true at all. Numerous photographs clearly show that potential bloodstains were so faint they were barely visible from a few feet away. These stains had no three-dimensional geometry Just making sure I said that right. I guess I did. Like one would expect of droplets, suggesting that if blood was present, it had been wiped away. Laboratory analysis would seem to affirm this based on findings that the stains were unidentifiable because they had been diluted with an unknown substance. Talbot continued. As I walked west from the living room, there was a half wall to my right. I could see multiple drops and runs of red liquid along the entire half wall. This is confusing. Photographs show there are no drops of any substance whatsoever on the short wall above the staircase leading down the first floor. Yes, forensic teams would document evidence of staining by what is later determined to be blood, but it looks significantly different from that discovered in Mogan's room on the third floor or Xana's down the hall. Yes. Across the hall, across the half wall north, I saw more red stains on the wall above the first and second floor staircase. The stains and liquid were consistent with cast off and appeared to be blood. Again, there is no evidence of any liquid in the common areas of the second floor based on photographs and video footage. I think that's wrong, right? Because it's like up on the where you're walking down the stairs, the wall right there. It's on that. It's down the going up to the second floor. I'm not sure. Now I'm questioning that. I'll have everything on a hard drive, like a little, not a hard drive, a little SD thing. Continuing west down the hallway, there was a bathroom to the left, south, with the hallway ending at a bedroom. On the north wall of the hallway, near the bedroom door, there appeared to be a red-colored transfer mark at approximately my shoulder height. To explain the importance of this observation, we return to Sutton. Page 32 of her report provides analysis of one highly unusual anomaly. Anomaly. I can't say that word. Anomaly. So I said it. I know people are leaving and they're like, this is so boring, but I'm reading Broken Plea, chapter 3, and it rhymes, and it makes me happy. Okay, page 32 of her report provides analysis of one highly unusual anomaly, which dovetails with Talbot's observations. Though it might seem that we are skipping ahead here, chronology is not the only matrix in a case this complex. What Talbot and Sutton observed will fit into the larger picture shortly. I'm so sorry I'm stuttering over my words. Stain 26 on the half wall of the second floor living room at the end of the beer pong table is depicted in image DSC 4886 and DSC 4685. This is one of the blood transfers Talbot also mentioned. Sutton wrote, stain 26 was tested for the presumptive presence of blood and was positive. Stain 26 is diluted cast off with associated flow stains. Okay. The numerical designation was added by Talbot's team Sunday afternoon. Cast off is created when blood is released as a result of a bloodied object in motion. The appearance of the blood stains reveal that the blood has been diluted by another liquid. Flow stains, as demonstrated in stain 26, result from gravitational attraction. Additional testing of stain 26 shows the presence of a mixture of DNA. Cayley and Goncalves matches the major component. Madison Mogan is a potential contributor to the minor component, and there is no physical evidence to indicate that Cayley or Maddie were in this location after sustaining their bloodletting injuries. I think it happened there, and they were brought upstairs. Oh, I lost my place. Oh my gosh. Oh no. Did I turn the page? Okay. Continuing west down the hallway, there was a bathroom to the left, south. Okay, did we read this? I think it all happened in the main room, like where the beer pong table is. Like, I think Kaylee ran up the stairs possibly, and Maddie, something was going on, and that's when she said, "Someone's here." Maybe she ran up there and saw someone before she even saw Maddie, ran down, and possibly whatever was going on with Ethan and Xana might not even be related to Kaylee and Maddie. Like, what? I mean, it's crazy, right? To think that two things could happen at once, but two things can happen at once, you know? Oh. I'm not sure where I left off, you guys. Shoulder height. Okay. I just said something about Kaylee and Maddie. Cast off is created when blood is released as a result of bloodied object in motion. We read that. Billet flow stains, as demonstrated in 26, result from gravitational attraction. Additional testing of stain 26 shows the presence of a mixture of DNA. Kaylee Goncalves matches the major component, and Madison Mogan is a potential contributor to the minor component. There is no physical evidence to indicate that Kaylee or Maddie were in this location after sustaining their bloodletting injuries. Yeah, I don't think yeah. Well, moving on. What Sutton makes clear and what prosecutors have never disclosed to the public are not required to since there was a plea deal is that liquid blood from the third floor somehow made its way to the second floor, where it was transferred to the half wall leading down to the first floor. This blood, identified through DNA as belonging to Mogan and Goncalves, was diluted with an unknown liquid before drying on white paned sheetrock with no discernible edges, volume, or mass. These blood spatters, though up to 12 inches in length, appear to have been wiped off the wall. Altogether, police found and identified 15 separate areas where blood from victims had been transferred to flat, vertical surfaces on the second floor. 3 of these stains were found on floor molding in the hallway leading to Xana's room, 2 west, 1 east, and all the rest except 2 on the knee wall or the south wall leading down to the first floor. Every single one of the stains documented by law enforcement laboratories tested positive for blood and was tracked via DNA to Maddie or Kaylee. Neither Maddie nor Kaylee entered the living room after they were attacked, meaning the killer or killers may have tracked liquid blood from the third floor and cast it off as droplets while moving from the kitchen across the living room, then left down the hallway to Xana's bedroom. Oddly, police found a single anomaly. Oddly, police found a single anomaly that, if released to the public, could have caused widespread uproar. Documents specify that blood matching DNA from Ethan Chapin was found on a flat wood knee wall at the opposite end of the house, near the top of the stairs leading down. Sutton's report shows that due to being found naked except for an unstained white socks, that is so creepy in my opinion. Sutton's report shows that due to being found naked except for unstained white socks, Ethan Chapin never left the room in which he was attacked. Most important, crime scene photographs appear to document that 2 of the diluted knee wall stains were found underneath a box of White Claw beverages. If true, this could prove that someone placed the box on top of the stains after Chapin was murdered. As we will see shortly, these previously undisclosed pieces of evidence alone seem to completely cripple the prosecution's assertions of a lone offender. In my opinion, someone almost certainly transferred via touch Ethan Chapin's blood to the stairway after he and Xana were murdered. It appears most likely they did so while walking down to the first floor, not fleeing the house via the kitchen. Stain E was tested for the presumptive presence of blood and was positive. Sutton wrote in her report, referring to the two stains found on the flat wooden ledge under the white claw box. Stain E consists of two diluted spatter stains. The shape of these spatters show that they were traveling from the area of the living room and towards the stairwell opening. The coloration and edge of characteristics of stain E show concentration around the out periphery, indicative of a diluted stain. For what seems like inexplicable reason, she notes, stain E was not tested further. Why? Perhaps one might speculate now that relative to all other blood spatter evidence in the common areas of the second floor, stain E represented one significant problem in the case against Brian Koberger. If he, in fact, was the lone assailant, why would he take the time to place a white claw box over bloodstains that were so diluted they were barely visible to the naked eye, far from the path he would have taken in escape? How did Cheathanapin's undiluted blood end up at the top of the staircase leading down to the first floor when there is no evidence that anyone except Dylan went down there? If police were in fact seeking the proverbial smoking gun during the early days of their investigations, it would be difficult to imagine anything more compelling than this. Wow. That is chapter 3. Thank you guys so much for listening. Chapter 4 is labeled Beer Pong $2 Bill and Girl in the Window. Do you guys want me to keep going? Just let me know. I'm reading The Broken Plea, by the way. We're in chapter 4 now. Okay, I'll keep going. I might just start doing this. I have a book being delivered today. If you guys want me to read books, I'd love to read. I'll get better at pronouncing words. Apparently words are hard. Okay, I'm sorry. We're going. Homicide detectives will tell you the first 48 hours after a crime are most important because time is seldom the investigator's friend. Fluids dry, things get touched, furniture is moved, DNA gets wiped away, and yes, this is a murder investigation, not a weather forecast. But if we assume for a moment that Lauren's predictions are correct and that small changes at the beginning create unpredictable outcomes down the line, we begin to see the apparent problem. Remember, Lauren's is the one that came up with the butterfly effect. This is a butterfly effect, is basically what he's saying. From the moment Officer Nunez arrived on site and labeled Ethan as a possible, what's that? In case you didn't hear that part in the beginning, things started to go downhill. From the time Talbot wrote that he found the sheath on the floor, things seemed to have been stumbling toward chaos. It did not help that the entire process was buried by the courts. On February 25th, 2024, Magistrate Judge Megan E. Marshall wrote, based upon the motion to seal search warrant and related documents filed herein, the court does hereby confirm and order that the affidavit for search warrant, including any exhibits, search warrant, return of search warrant, including any exhibits and inventories of items seized, and order are confidential except from disclosure and are sealed pursuant to Idaho Court Administration Rule 32. For the reasons stated in the said motion and until April 1st, 2023 or further order of the court, whichever occurs first. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hi, Carrie. Hi, SPC Spilled Beans. I love that. I say cool beans all the time, and now my kids say it, so my bad. Some might argue that secrecy is good in a prosecution of this nature, that scrutiny is a taxpayer-funded function of the state. Many would claim that police need time to work and that media only cloud the water. That investigative journalism is nothing more than directed analysis, a distraction. Perhaps it doesn't even matter at this point because the proof is in the pudding. Police have opened their files showing how this case was solved, what they found, who they talked to, when they first made sense of facts, everything looked copacetic once Koberger pled guilty. But even if we agree that justice has been done within the realm of lawyers and courts, maybe we can also agree that occasionally even pros get things wrong. It's easy to recall the apparent wrongful conviction of countless people, from the Central Park Five to Reuben Hurricane Carter, the McCollum brothers, and Amanda Knox. Former attorney John Grisham recently published a book called Framed. Interesting. That might be a book to read, right? Recently published a book called Frame, documenting outrageous miscarriages of justice. Well meaning advocates, such as the Innocent Project, have logged more than 200 exonerations based on DNA alone. Incredibly, more than a quarter of these involved initial pleas of guilty. Well, some might argue that the problem lies in human error, that under the best circumstances, cops are limited to the training and resources at their disposal. No one would claim, for example, that the Moscow Police Department had everything it needed to investigate a quadruple homicide with 35 sworn officers and a tax base of 25,000 people. Very small. Bill Thompson's office was likely short staffed and underpaid. We assume that Ann Taylor was state certified to defend murder cases, but that was not her primary responsibility. Even the state police were limited compared to law enforcement in other more populous geographies, with standards that allowed detectives like Talbot to file evidence reports 3 weeks after collection. How, then, does one go back even this early in the investigation to try to make sense of things like the diluted blood stains, the posing of Kaylee and Maddie's bodies, and arguably baffling statements by two surviving witnesses? How does one proceed with when it how does one proceed when on its surface alone the living room presents a roiling storm of doubt? The answers lie in scrutiny. In lieu of the trial, we must dig down into the state's assertions, then a plea hearing, and let me read that. The answers lie in scrutiny. In lieu of trial, we must dig down into the state's assertions in the plea hearing and work to expose apparent contradictions in each search of truth. There are secrets buried in Bill Thompson's Brady disclosure. It is our job to reveal them. Before we delve deeper, several things require stipulation. First, I hold no forensic analysis certification from any accredited association, organization, or school. I have a master's degree from the University of Virginia and 15 years of investigative experience as a special agent with the FBI, but no training in forensics. My testimony as a court-certified expert in statement analysis helped put a serial killer named Oscar Ray Bolin to death, and I had no degree in criminology. Interesting. Second, cold case investigations. Okay, just make sure I was on the right page. Second, cold case investigation is a fast developing discipline aimed at foisting new techniques upon legacy methods, whereas homicide investigators focus on acute onset crisis. Cold case investigators have the benefit of objectively in perspective. They face less pressure from media, politicians, or family members, or the strident cries of an outraged public. Oddly enough, time becomes an asset. Third, chaos theory is now widely taught in the world's finest universities, but police academies eschew it. Eschew? Oh no! Why will it end? What did I do wrong? Oh, okay. It told me it was going to end soon. I need to readjust. Oh. Okay. Sorry, guys. Third, chaos theory is now widely taught in the world's finest universities, but police academies eschew it. Concepts like initial condition, nonlinear dynamics, and complex adaptive systems are fundamental to social developers, game theorists, and financial strategists, but anathema, ama- anathema to law enforcement. Scientists avoid simple paths like rationale and assumption in favor of logic, but cops do not. If we decide to lean on Lawrence to build new bottles of in- if we decide to lean on Lawrence to build new models of inquiry, we need to anticipate resistance from authorities. I'm starting to get. Finally, as odd as this might sound to fans of crime and punishment, there's fans of that. None of this is new to the United States Department of Justice. When it comes to the antiquated state of crime scene investigations, they agree completely. In fact, they put it in writing. The word system is a misnomer. When used in the context of death investigation in the United States, wrote National Institute of Justice Executive Director Dr. Stephen C. Clark in the introduction of a 1999 publication, Death Investigation, a guide for the scene investigator. There is no system of death investigation that covers the more than 3,000 jurisdictions in this country. In lieu of standardized methods, we will hereafter refer to and cite the National Institute of Justice Death Investigation 2011 and 2024 as a criminologist Bible. It was composed and peer-reviewed by the DOJ's Technical Working Group for Death Investigation, a highly accomplished focus group comprised of 144 members. There are no nationally accepted guidelines or standards of practice for individuals performing death scene investigations. No professional degree, license, certification, or minimum educational requirements exist, nor is there a commonly accepted training curriculum. We cannot even point to a common job title for the thousands of people who routinely perform death investigations in this country. Maybe we should do that. At the risk of sounding like a shill for the defense, how could it be that the DOJ itself admits such insufficiencies? Most people would assume that America has moved past the days when a bunch of women could be rounded up in a town called Salem and burned at the stake as witches. It seems like a lot of times he doesn't finish his sentence, but okay. We live in an age when algorithms predict what clothes you'll buy, songs you'll sing along with, and restaurants you might frequent on vacation. Your cell phone uses AI to gather your news, predict social media interactions, guide you from place to place based on data. How is it possible that state of the art technologies like DNA analysis and cell tower triangulation can be used to identify a killer despite a history of misinterpretation? Let's blame it on chaos, not the concept, but the theory. In pioneering his models, Edward Lorenz discovered that systems act in predictable patterns no matter where you find them. The world follows rules, and those rules govern outcomes, and with proper analysis, these outcomes can be studied as deterministic, not random. According to Lorenz, chaos is not a lack of order, it is a higher degree of complexity. No, he probably never got close to a crime scene, but neither did the guys who invented the D-cell flashlight or started Motorola. A badge and a gun do not impart some magical ability to look at a bloodstain and figure out how it got there. Cops get things wrong like everybody else. How then do we proceed? How do we accept Koberger's admission of guilt when acknowledging facts that seem sufficient to doubt them? Let's start with the basics of what the file tells us. We know from Dylan Mortensen's first two statements that witness recollections can be sketchy at best. We know that written reports by Officer Nunez and Warner seem to differ significantly from what body camera footage shows. We know that Bethany Funk's delayed call to 911 started the whole thing off on the wrong foot, and that statements provided by Hunter Johnson only make things worse. We cannot ignore the fact that Detective Talbot's December 6th report appears to directly contradict the handwritten receipts he filed on November 13th. Forensic analysis by the state's blood spatter expert, Paulette Sutton, sows confusion where it was supposed to add science. In my opinion, Bill Thompson's plea hearing summation is a rife with half truths, suppositions, vagaries, and misunderstandings. I'm so sorry, guys. I butchered that. Ann Taylor promised to mount a defense, but that never happened. In order to map a path through this chaos, we need to find a beginning, a center, a time and place from which all change flows. Fortunately, we can agree on certain things, including the fact that at 4 a.m. on November 13th, 2022, there was a 3-story house near the middle of the UI campus, and this midpoint of their house was its open second floor. The midpoint of the house was its open second floor. At the center of the second floor was a living room. In the center of the living room stood a white folding table. Everything that happened early Sunday morning had to pass right through it. Police seemed to agree. Numerous reports mapped the killer's movements through the house, acknowledging that he entered through a sliding glass doors in the kitchen before moving upstairs to cruelly attack his victims. Evidence shows that he walked back down to the second floor, leaving a blood trail on the walls and banister to where he encountered Xana near the door to Dylan's room. He chased her through the living room, turned left down the hallway, killing her within arm's reach of Ethan. Police believe the killer fled the second floor after encountering Dylan just moments before she ran downstairs to Bethany. Sutton agreed enough to describe the living room in detail. Within this area, there is a sofa, a television, and a beer pong table. A metal framed console table is partially visible against the wall opposite of the sofa. If we surmise that the table at the center of the house might be important, prosecutors seem to have ignored it. While acknowledging that it was set up for beer pong in a house that hosted a party the night before the murders, no one questioned its placement. They did not find it odd that 10 cups were neatly arranged at one end, with 10 others strewn wildly from the other. They did not even try to explain how, after killing Kaylee and Maddie, a 6-foot-tall, 185-pound, blood-soaked Kohberger chased a frantic Xana through space occupied by the table without moving it an inch. Bill Thompson himself stated in court that immediately after butchering Xana and Ethan, Kohberger fled. I'm so scared of getting flagged. Kohberger fled back around the table on his way out the door. Throughout this whole ordeal, we are told the table never budged. If this all seems unlikely, experts appear not to have cared. Sutton's report addresses bloodstains on the table, but never questions how they got there. She maps blood spatter on the knee wall without calculating trajectories or explaining how blood from an object in motion could have lined up precisely with the killer standing where the table was not supposed to be. I think I need my reading glasses. Apologize. I wore my shirt today. Found it fitting for the occasion. Everybody doing okay? You all right? My blood's getting kind of numb. Really. Okay. Sutton's report addresses bloodstains on the table, but never questions how they got there. She maps blood spatter on the knee wall without calculating trajectories or explaining how blood from an object in motion could have lined up precisely with the killer standing where the table was not supposed to be. Officer Nunez's body camera records Hunter and Warner turning sideways to navigate the table, but Nunez never questions how Xana dodged it with the maniacal killer close on her heels, wildly swinging a knife. I'm so sorry. It's because I'm thinking, oh my God, Tyler Hadley. He hacked his parents and then threw a party. So you cannot put anything past anybody. This could all been done and over with. They cleaned up and then let's play beer pong now. That sounds fun. Let's go smoke a J and then we'll play beer pong. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Officer Nunez's body camera records Hunter and Warner turning sideways to navigate the table, but Nunez never questioned how Xana dodged it with a maniacal killer close on her heels, wildly swinging a knife. Worse, Detective Talbot's evidence collection teams documents blood stains without explaining their odd shape or unlikely placement. Various reports mention the solo cups without questioning why some stand upright while others lie scattered. Detectives did not find it odd that a Corona light bottle and a bowl of popcorn somehow escaped disruption. They did not bother to explain how Xana's blood ended up on the table's left side. How did professionals seemingly overlook such obvious clues? Although Sutton later modified some of her statements due to confusion over placard and intake numbering, she was not shy about offering speculation. Stain 39 demonstrates the appearance of diluted bloodstain, she wrote on page 62, referring to dried fluids on the beer pong table that were genetically matched to Kaylee Goncalves. The presence of an overturned cup in the vicinity of stain 39 is a potential source of the dilution if the cup contained a liquid at some time or if it was part of the setup for a beer pong game. Sutton, a professional criminologist, does not explain how she could tell the bloodstains were diluted based on photographs alone. These are the very same stains that Detective Talbot noted in his December 6 report as appearing to be liquid. Neither of the two reports note that the stains were so faint they do not seem visible in Nunez's body camera footage. Further, nothing in police files indicates that there was blood in any of the overturned. I'm so sorry. Further, nothing in police files indicates that there was liquid in any of the overturned cups. Police found no evidence of any fluid other than blood on the table. Prosecutors appear not to have questioned how Sutton, their professional analysis, arrived at this conclusion seemingly without any validating evidence. She does not mention that the closest overturned cup was almost 2 feet from the nearest stain. I don't want my kids to hear this. She does not acknowledge that none of the upright cups contained liquid as police found them, or that none of the 16 objects found on the table showed any signs of blood. She does not explain why the cups, the bottle, the White Claw can, or the bowl were not tested or even seized as evidence. This is just the first of many questionable assessments, she continued. You guys doing okay? Hi, guys. If you're new, if you're just joining, reading The Broken Plea, we're on chapter 4, page 105, if you want to join along, if you have the book. I will say I started reading this because a lot of people had told me they didn't have access to the book, and I have it. So I thought, well, I'll just read it. I like to read, and I haven't read it word for word. I've just skimmed, so I'm excited, and we're all learning this together, right? Unless you've read it. Okay, she continued. Spatter stain F is on the edge of the west side of the table. Presumptive testing of stain F for blood was positive. Presumptive testing of stain F for blood was positive. This stain revealed the DNA of Xana Kernodle. The west side of the white folding table was closest to the brass-colored console. Photos indicate the space between them to be approximately 18 inches. The extremely elongated shape of stain F is attributed to an acute angle of incidence between the source object and the side of the beer pong table. Xana Kernodle was injured in proximity to this table. It should be noted that Sutton later revised parts of this and other findings in a state's amended supplemental disclosure, but she clearly believed Xana was injured in proximity to the table. Anyone looking at the photos would wonder how cast-off blood could possibly have landed on the 2-inch vertical surface in an elongated pattern. Remember, Xana would have to have been fleeing her killer from Xana would have to have been fleeing her killer through the 18-inch space, shedding blood from an object in motion without disturbing any of the objects to her right or her left. That seems virtually impossible, but no one seemed to care. If the sound of butterfly wings is not yet deafening, remember that the beer pong table sat in the middle of the second floor. See, that feels like a sentence that didn't end. Or I'll read it. And if the sound of butterfly wings is not yet deafening, remember that the beer pong table sat in the middle of the second floor. Anyone moving through that house prior to the crimes would certainly have had to pass by it. This includes Mogan and Kernodle moving from the front door to their rooms upstairs. It would include Xana and Ethan using the kitchen or the second floor bathroom or walking down the hallway to her room. It would include Dylan and Bethany and Lakeland McComas when they went upstairs to watch the Vampire Diaries after partying Saturday night in the neighboring apartments. Though police never measured distances, Nunez's video makes it clear that adult male officers had to turn sideways, moving between the table and the knee wall, navigating the console, or walking toward the kitchen. Based on known dimensions of similar folding tables and the flat wooden ledge, one can estimate clearance of no more than 18 inches. Why would anyone have placed a beer pong table in that configuration? Guests of the party on Friday night would have had great difficulty getting past it to use the restroom, and players would have been forced to stand in the open doorway to the kitchen on one end, directly against the knee wall on the other, blocking access to the fridge and launching errant shots down to the first floor. Common sense makes it far more likely that players would have positioned their table 90 degrees in the middle of the wide opened room. Right? I've always thought that too. Why is any of that important? Who cares about where someone placed the table? Because police reports place it at the crossroads of the murders, and its position, as police found it, makes no sense at all. Sutton's analysis inadvertently makes that clear. Image ISP 4687 depicts the view looking across the beer pong table toward the bedroom assigned to Xana Kernodle. On the right side of this image, one can see half wall with a wooden ledge and the stairs leading from the second level down to the first level parking lot entrance on the north side of the residence. Near the middle of the frame, the hallway leading from the living room to the bedroom of Xana Kernodle is depicted. Sutton has already stated that diluted bloodstains on the top of surface of the table were genetically linked to Kaylee Goncalves. The elongated bloodstain on the west side of the table was genetically matched to Xana. How is it possible that one cast-off bloodstain would print on the top of the table while a second somehow printed on its side? Considering the fact that both samples were determined to have been diluted with an unknown substance, sensibilities starts to break down. Moving away from the folding table, Sutton continued, Stain D is located on the north side of the wooden ledge of the half wall in the living room. Stain D was tested for the presumptive presence of blood and was positive. Stain D is a transfer blood stain. Subsequent testing of stain D on the edge of the ledge showed a mixture of DNA, Ethan Chapin being the primary contributor. There is no physical evidence to indicate that Ethan Chapin was ever outside the bedroom after sustaining his bloodletting injuries. Wait, Ethan? He was murdered in bed more than 20 feet away. How did this undiluted blood end up at the top of the staircase to the first floor when the killer left through the kitchen? Inexplicably, Sutton moves on without seeming to question the evidence or, worse, what she found right next to it. Stain E on the top of the wooden ledge is depicted in DSCX 4685 and DSC 4687. Stain E was tested for the presumptive presence of blood and was positive. Stain E consists of two diluted splatter stains. The shape of these spatters show they are traveling from the area of the living room and towards the stairwell opening. The coloration and the edge characteristic of stain E show concentration around the outer periphery, indicative of a diluted stain. As mentioned in the last chapter, this is the stain discovered under the 12-pack of White Claw hard seltzers. No one in law enforcement ever asks or explains how it ended up under a box. Moving east, Sutton wrote, 3 areas of staining are noted in the stairwell between second level and the first level as depicted in DSC 4430. On the north wall, these stains are labeled as 23, 24, and stain 27 is in the area located above the steps. It's 23 and 24, and stain 27 is located above the steps. Like so many other supposed blood transfers found in the common areas of the house, they are difficult to see in photos released by the Moscow PD. They look nothing like blood spatter found in Maddie or Xana's rooms. Stains 24, 23, and 27 were tested for the presumptive presence of blood and were positive. The location and distribution of stains 23, 24, and 27 are consistent with a cast-off mechanism, while their physical appearance is consistent with diluted blood. Cast-off is created when blood is released as a result of a bloodied object in motion. That, don't think I have to explain to you guys. You're pretty smart. According to the prosecution, this bloodied object in motion would have to be a K-bar knife. It's the only weapon ever cited or described. That's wild. The appearance of the bloodstains reveal that the blood has been diluted by another liquid. DNA testing of stains from the north wall of the stairwell shows a mixture of DNA. Kaylee Goncalves matches the major components, and Maddie is a potential contributor to the minor component. Moving toward the front wall facing the staircase, Sutton focuses on opening space leading down to the first floor. Stain 26 on the half wall of second floor living room at the end of the beer pong table is depicted in image DSC 4886 and DSC 4685. Stain 26 was tested for the presumptive presence of blood and was positive. Stain 26 is diluted cast off with associated flow stains, and the appearance of blood stains reveal that the blood has been diluted by another liquid. As we will see, no diluted bloodstains were found anywhere in Maddie or Xana's rooms. They were found only in common areas of the house, specifically the second floor. Flow stains, as demonstrated in stain 26, shows the presence of a mixture of DNA. Kaylee Goncalves matches the major component. Madison is a potential contributor to the minor component, and there is no physical evidence to indicate that Kaylee or Maddie were in this location after sustaining their bloodletting injuries. From there, Sutton moves to the south-facing knee wall at the end of the table, and this is where photos show 10 solo cups standing upright in beer pong formation. Stains V and W were tested for the presumptive presence of blood and were positive. Stains V and W represent a second area of diluted cast-off of stains with associated flow. The appearance of the blood stain reveal that the blood has been diluted by another liquid. The flow patterns are the result of gravitational attraction. There is no physical evidence to indicate that Ms. Goncalves, Ms. Mogan, Ms. Kernodle, or Mr. Chapin were in this location after sustaining their bloodletting injuries. Okay. Had police or Sutton purchased a white folding table, 10 solo cups, and had a small amount of liquid with viscosity, I hope I said that right, similar to the blood, they might quickly have found the 18-inch gap far too narrow to reconcile the table's position with what we know about the crimes. It seems to have been virtually impossible for an assailant to cast liquid blood against the knee wall from the far end of the beer pong table without hitting the cups. The wooden ledge atop the knee or wall atop the knee wall or the floor. Trajectories simply do not match. Gravity does not lie. If this doesn't ring alarm bells, there's more. I am almost going to have to be done, guys. Image DSC 4704 depicts the stains identified on the baseboards in the hallway between the living room area on the second level and the bedroom assigned to Xana Kernodle. On the left side of the hallway are stains G and H, and on the right side of the hallway is stain I. Though somewhat confusing, Sutton's reports documents the presence of cast-off blood spatter on baseboard molding approximately 2 inches above the hardwood floor. Stains G, H, and I were tested for the presumptive presence of blood and were positive. The physical appearance of stains G, H, and I is consistent with diluted blood. Diluted blood is the result of intermixing blood with another liquid. Xana was likely bleeding profusely at that point. Her blood, as well as blood from Maddie, Kaylee, and Ethan, was found on horizontal and vertical surfaces throughout the common areas of the second floor. Yet not one single drop was found on the floor itself. That's so weird. Sutton's report does not even mention that. Stain 28 is depicted in image DSC 4443 and in closer detail in image DSC 44445 on the north side of the hallway between the living room and bedroom of Xana Kernodle. I have on shorts. I'm sorry, guys. My butt's going numb. Stain 28 gave a positive presumptive test for blood, and stain 28 is a swipe stain. Stain 28 appears dark in color and not diluted. An undiluted swipe stain indicates that a bloodied object surface made contact with this wall while in motion, or a hand or something, right? Without drawing conclusions or getting lost in the weeds, we need to compare what Sutton wrote in her report with what Officer Talbot stated in his December 6th report. Talbot observed, as you go up the stairs to the second floor, you enter a small living room area. There was a folding table set up on the west side of the area, partially blocking the entry to the west hallway. The table had multiple areas of red liquid on the table that appeared to be blood. According to Sutton, the blood spatters were diluted, dried, and faint. Talbot continued. As I walked west from the living room, there was a half wall to my right. I could see multiple drops and runs of red liquid along the entire half wall. Sutton noted no drops of any kind. Oh, I'm on chapter 5, guys. No, I'm not. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I interrupted us. I'm so sorry. As I walked west from the living room, there was a half wall to my right, and I could see multiple drops and runs of red liquid along the entire half wall. Sutton noted no drops of any kind, nothing obviously red, yet Talbot reported, across the half wall I saw more red stains on the wall above the first and second floor staircase. The stains and liquid were consistent with cast off and appeared to be blood. Photographs dispute this. Continuing west down the hallway, there was a bathroom to the left with the hallway ending at a bedroom. On the north wall of the hallway, near the bedroom door, there appeared to be a red-colored transfer mark at approximately my shoulder height. And this would be the exact spot where Bill Thompson's prosecutive narrative and virtually everything the media have reported comes to a screeching halt. Anyone looking at the threshold to Xana's room will immediately notice that spatter found inside and spatter found outside look dramatically different. Where the floor inside her room is covered in blood, the floor outside is completely clean. This contrast screams contradiction. How is it possible that virtually all bloodstains found in common areas of the second floor were diluted with an unknown substance, while all those found in Maddie and Xana's rooms were not? How did the killer slay Kaylee and Maddie on the third floor, then track their blood downstairs to the second, where it mysteriously became diluted? Conversely, how did Xana's blood start out diluted on the beer pong table, only to become whole by the time she got to her room? How did Ethan Chapin's undiluted blood end up on the knee wall at the top of the stairs to the first floor if he never left his room? As we will soon discover, these were just the first whispers of doubt. I'm going to take a moment and say that I think possibly Ethan's undiluted blood ended up on that wall because it could have been on Xana or the killers, and they were running down the. I imagine a crazy, chaotic scene, and the reason why the common areas are clean and the bedrooms are dirty or not cleaned is because the bedrooms would be nearly impossible, right, to leave no trace, but it wouldn't be hard in 8 hours to at least try to clean up, you know? They're young and they would miss some spots, but they are still considered adults and can be tried as an adult. Thank you guys for staying. If you've stayed the whole time, I truly appreciate you, and you're the real MVP. We're reading The Broken Plea by Christopher Whitcomb, and we're on chapter 4. And let's see. This is a long chapter. My voice is nearly done though, guys. Please don't hate me if I have to stop. I might be able to finish this chapter though. Thank you, by the way, for being here. I'm going to get back at it. On January 10th, 2023, Moscow Police Department lead detective Brett Payne filed a report documenting the interview of Molly McMichael regarding a DoorDash delivery made to 1122 King Road in the early morning hours of November 13th. The text of Detective Payne's report is here transcribed verbatim. On January 10th, 2023, Moscow Police Department on November 23rd, 2022, at approximately 20:39 hours, Molly McMichael came to the Moscow Police Department to be interviewed about her presence in the area of 1122 King Road during the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. Wouldn't that be, what was it? I guess 8:30? What is that? 8? That's late to come up to the police station, right? I mean, I don't know. McMichael was identified as being in the area through records obtained from DoorDash via a search warrant and was confirmed as being in the area based off of a Google geofence warrant, which was obtained as a result of this investigation. Now, did they just look for her, or did they try and figure out who the DoorDasher was, She was identified as being in the area through records obtained. Okay, I guess they just did a search warrant from DoorDash and found that it was her that did the DoorDash. I was accompanied by FBI Special Agents Alex Skelton during this interview. McMichael told me she worked for 12 to 18 hours on the night of November 12th to the 13th and received 3 orders in the King Road, Queen Road area. 2 of the orders were at the 500 Queen Road apartment complex, which is immediately to the east of 1122 King Road. McMichael said the delivery at 1122 King Road was her final order for the evening. McMichael said she could not find the 1122 King Road address as the address number was hidden by a porch light, which caused her to remain in the area for approximately 15 minutes. More like hours, girlfriend. McMichael also stated her Google Maps told her to go to the parking lot immediately behind 1122 King Road. McMichael stated she initially parked in the front of the house and could see a female at the top left window, the 3rd-story bathroom. McMichael said she saw the same female a couple more times in the same window, and she would duck down when McMichael looked at her. How long was she standing there or sitting there to see her 3 times? McMichael then said that she drove to the back parking lot behind 1122 King Road and parked. She stated she could not see the back courtyard area because behind the house and noticed all of the lights were on. McMichael stated her map told her to walk into the back of the house, but she did not feel comfortable doing so because there was no path. McMichael said she started to walk down the road, which runs north/south immediately to the cast of the residence. podcast. To the east of the residence, McMichael stated a tan sedan drove next to her while she was walking. McMichael said there was a male driver and noticed he did not look at me, and she said he looked completely zoned and just drove by her. McMichael later stated the driver was white with blonde or red spiky hair. McMichael also noted that the dome light driver was white and blonde or red spiky. I haven't heard that. I'm about to be done, like my kids are needing me. McMichael also noticed the dome light in the car was on when it went by and later told me the male was wearing a light colored collared shirt. McMichael stated she walked up to her car and drove back to the front of 1122 King Road, at which point she saw the same address numbers. McMichael said she placed the order at the front door, took a picture, and then left at approximately 4 a.m. During the time McMichael was in the area of the King Road residence, the white Elantra can be seen via the 1112 King Road camera driving back and forth on Willenta Drive and then enter the King Road Queen Road loop at approximately 3:56 a.m. Yeah. I guess, yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. I okay. At the point McMichael pulled into the front parking lot before she dropped the order off, the white Elantra pulled in behind McMichael's vehicle, a gray Subaru Forester, and then exited the King Road at approximately 3:58 a.m. McMichael did not mention seeing the white Elantra behind her at any time. I continued to question McMichael about her time near the residence, and she told me she walked down Queen Road at one point with the flashlight out. McMichael can be seen doing so on the footage from 1112 King Road. McMichael also continued to tell me with her flashlight out. McMichael can be seen doing so. Okay. McMichael also continued to tell me the female she saw in the upstairs bathroom window would duck down when McMichael looked at her. McMichael described her as having long brown hair. Molly stated she could not identify the girl as one of the victims. Approximately 30 minutes into the interview, S.A. Skelton requested McMichael take part in a cognitive interview. McMichael agreed, and S.A. Skelton began the cognitive interview. During this interview, McMichael confirmed much of the information she already told us. Molly was able to remember that she had her dog with her during one of her walks in the area, but did not clarify more in the ways of the details of the evening. We thanked Molly for her cooperation, offered any support she may need, and concluded our interview. Offered any support she may need, huh? Subsequent investigation or video footage and cellular data show the tan sedan McMichael saw was likely a light-colored SUV which left the area. Moreover, it does not appear McMichael saw the white Elantra at any point during her time near the residence. I certify or declare under penalty or perjury pursuant to the law of the state of Idaho that the foregoing is true and correct. On December 6, 2022, Detective Jeffrey Talbot filed 6 separate reports. The first, as discussed earlier, details the methodology, inventory, and timeline he conducted on November 13th. The second report, Supplemental 0033, functions as a 2-page addendum, noting that on November 14th at 11:24 a.m., ISP D2 personnel returning to the 1122 King Road, Moscow, Latah County, Idaho for further processing. Though he does not list reasons for his return, it seems plausible that he was called back to document things found after the fact. No matter the reason, Talbot assigned ISP Detective Jake Schwecke to start a pre-evidence process video of the entire property. According to files delivered from Bill Thompson's office to Brian Koberger's defense, this video is broken up either through editing or in a discrete stop-start segments into 4 distinct tapes. The first 3, labeled Pre-Search 1, Pre-Search 2, and Pre-Search 3, document interior spaces as well as a parking lot out front, all vehicles and their curtilage comprising the exterior of the house. Along with photographs, these tapes provide objective, real-time documentation of what police found upon arrival. At least that was the intention. He wrote, at about 11:28 p.m., Detective Powell, Detective Schwecke, and I started marking the evidence with numbered placards while Detective Roberts photographed the exhibits. Those exhibits included 4 items, 2 blood swabs, rolled $2 bills located on desk along north wall of floor 2, west bedroom, and blue-colored powder, later determined to be crushed Adderall, in the same location. At first glance, it seems impossible to tell if timestamps 11:24 a.m. and 11:28 p.m. Indicate a typographical error or a 12-hour gap between the pre-search videos and the actual search itself. That's interesting. Talbot's timeline resumes later in his report with the notation that Schwecke conducted a post-search video at 2:12 p.m., but immediately states that the front door was resealed and ISP personnel left the scene at 12:18 a.m. I am going to have to stop here. I need to, I've been live very long time and I have kids, but I appreciate you guys. This is how much we've read so far. We're getting there. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope that I'm not like annoying you with this, but I knew that there were several people that didn't have access to it, so I told them that I would read it, so that's what I'm doing. And when I'm done, I'm going to put it all into one video and I'll have it on YouTube. Maybe not one. It's not going to be able to be one. I know for sure. You're welcome. Thank you, spiritually all Robin. I like your name. You're welcome, Carrie. You guys are awesome for being here, but I will put it all together. I'll mash it all up and splice that one up and then put it in separate videos on my YouTube channel so that there will be access to it for anybody at any time. And right now I am in the process of that there will be access to it for anybody at any time. And right now I am in the process of doing. So I'm gonna finish that later on this evening when my husband's sleeping. He works days right now and he has to get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So we go to bed early. Yes, sir. There's dog poop in the hallway. Great. Okay, I have things to tend to. So you guys have a wonderful evening, and I will be back. Maybe I'll be able to come back tomorrow and read the rest of chapter 4. There's only a few pages. I've just got things going on I need to attend to. Love you guys so much, and rock out, your horns. And like I said, thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking around this long. I hope you have a good night. Good weekend. Drink your water, get outside, take your vitamins, take care of yourself, take care of others, and have a wonderful, blessed day.